Chapter 40. Just the beginning. Gentlemen, this is an astonishing tale, Sandra's voice wavered, reflecting a mix of elation and sorrow. As a reporter, the opportunity to unveil such a story excited her, while the necessity to report such unfortunate events drenched her spirit in sadness. I must admit, if you had relayed all this to me over the phone, I might have dismissed you as delusional, but witnessing today's occurrences, I have no doubt that the station will bypass the martial law order to broadcast this. Allow me a few minutes to consult with my producer. Without awaiting on a response, she pivoted and left the room, phone clasped tightly in hand. The men exchanged glances, a silent consensus passing between them. Satisfaction simmered in the air from the fruitful conversation. Now, only one task remained. They needed to prepare. Colonel Parker was the first to stand. He looked over at the Lieutenant Governor. "Sir, if you want to come with me, I'll show you where you can freshen up." Happy to take the Colonel up on his offer, the Lieutenant Governor rose. "Commander, would you like to join us?" Sawyer sat and thought about the briefing. "No, I am good, sir." "See you back here in 10 minutes, then," Parker replied as he exited the office with the Lieutenant Governor. From where she waited in the hall just outside the room, Kate watched the two men exit and wondered why Sawyer wasn't with them. She slowly made her way on her swollen ankle to the door and looked inside for him. There he was, still sitting in his chair. She could see that he was bothered. Making her way into the room, Kate could see the sparkle come back to his eyes as he looked up and spotted her. Kate closed the door as she entered. Sawyer walked over. "You shouldn't be walking around," Sawyer said. Concern poured out of him as he spoke to her. "I'm fine, sweetie," Kate assured him while wrapping her arms around him. Almost before the last word cleared her lips, he tried to slow it down. After a minute, she pulled her head back from his chest, just enough to speak, but she didn't let her arms loosen from around his neck. "What is bothering you?" Sawyer didn't believe there was anything she could say that didn't sound like she was singing to him. "Just nerves." He pulled her closer to him. "It is all good now, though." Even though Sawyer and Kate hadn't known of the other's existence a week ago, those looking at them now would have thought they were newlyweds. "I want you up there with me today, Kate. I need you there." Sawyer didn't let go the least little bit as he spoke. "Anything you want, Commander," she replied in a flirtatious tone, doing her best to take his mind from the upcoming event. A few more minutes passed as they stood in the center of the office in a tight embrace, and they probably would have remained that way had it not been for a knock on the door. Breaking the hold they had on each other, Sawyer spoke. "Yes?" Sawyer asked. He straightened his uniform. A voice just on the other side came in response. "They are ready, sir." "I will be right there." Giving Kate one last soft kiss before opening the door, Sawyer looked at her and gazed into her eyes. "Kate, I love you." Before she could respond, he opened the door, and there stood two soldiers waiting to escort him to the front of the building where the briefing was to be held. With each step, the warmth of her presence nearby seemed to infuse him with newfound vigor. Though Sawyer stood at a modest 5'11" in this moment, his stride and demeanor exuded the confidence of a giant. The hallway culminated with a doorway leading to a stage adorned with a podium. Casting a quick glance over his shoulder, Sawyer's eyes met Kate's. Even marred by the soot of earlier combat, her radiance shone through, assuring him that they'd overcome whatever lay ahead. Sandra approached swiftly, intercepting him just before he reached the exit. "Okay, as we discussed, the Lieutenant Governor will speak, and then you tell your story," Sandra informed him. Overlooking the expansive grounds of the armory, Sawyer felt the weight of countless gazes on him. For the first time, that weight seemed inconsequential. Robert, from his elevated vantage point, scrutinized every individual by the barricade. He felt this moment of vulnerability was perfect for an ambush. With enhanced optics aiding his vision, he sought any hint of aggression. But all he found were relaxed stances, weapons held loosely. This unexpected serenity unnerved him, prompting a more meticulous sweep of the surroundings. An unsettling intuition gnawed at him. Something was amiss. "Hello, I am Sandra Wheeler, Channel 4 News, broadcasting live from where, hours ago, a bloody firefight occurred. It took place here between what we were told was a rogue unit of the Missouri National Guard and troops from the United Nations, who were holding prisoner the National Guardsmen's comrades in arms. They have since freed the Lieutenant Governor of Missouri from a local jail cell and brought him here to speak. I believe that every American should listen closely to what these 4 gentlemen have to say, for our lives and the nation may depend upon it. Directing the camera to the podium, then Sandra Wheeler said, "Governor." Scanning each hiding spot that he would use in the distance, Robert saw nothing. He still felt as if there should be something, but the more he observed, the more he saw nothing. "What are they up to?" Robert mumbled to himself. He was sure that if they wanted anyone dead, it would be the Lieutenant Governor. Standing up straight with the stature of a politician, the governor began his speech. "My fellow Missourians and Americans, I bring you a most depressing story, a true story of how those in Washington have let us down." "Let us down? What the hell?" Karnik whispered over to Sawyer with no one seeing. "I think it was a little more than that," he further stated, and then focused on what the governor was saying. "Every one of us has felt the pressure of the economy over the last few years and has had struggles." "Enough!" Karnik roared, his patience worn thin by years of hearing the same political rhetoric. He stormed toward the podium, pushing the lieutenant governor aside in his fervor. The official, caught off guard by the sudden aggression, started to reclaim his position, but a glance at Karnik's imposing clenched fist, with one finger warningly outstretched, made him reconsider. He straightened up, choosing silence over confrontation. "You know," Karnik said, and paused, deep in thought, from behind the podium. "We are not here to give political speeches. That time has passed. We are here to tell you about what has happened, to tell you about the false imprisonment of your fellow man, about the thinning out of our military of personnel, such as those who say they will not fire upon you, about the families who have been driven from the land they have farmed for 100 years, even killed for it by those in our government, and about the unconstitutional deployment of UN troops on American soil." Karnik found himself losing control at the thought of what he had just said, and tried to regain his calm. His fist came down with a rumble on the podium as he stared straight into the camera. "This is the kind of shit you see happening on the 10 o'clock news in other countries. How the hell did things get so off-kilter here in the land of opportunity? The one place where men and women voluntarily put their lives on the line, knowing they may never reap the rewards. What would those who destroy their own country and beliefs say to those who paid the ultimate sacrifice for this country? Sorry, but we have decided to take a different path." Karnik held in his rage, but everyone could tell this was something he had to release from deep within. "I don't accept that," he growled, slamming his cantaloupe-sized fist down on the podium once more. "I say, to hell with tyrants and anyone else who wants to rule by tyranny. That is what martial law is, and it doesn't belong within the borders of the United States of America." Every man who wasn't on watch gathered around. Every one of them could feel the power in Karnik's words. "We are the land of the free. We are the brave." He took a deep breath and then composed himself, but it didn't last long. As Karnik began to speak, his emotions began to overcome him once more. "We are at war. This is the time of rebirth for our country. No more will we have a government that tracks our every move. No more will we have a government that wipes its feet on the Constitution. We are going to bring back this great nation and free it from the grasp of tyrants." His arms flying around as he spoke, Karnik's words flowed deep in every person present as they were broadcast all over the country. Sawyer could see how drained his dear friend had become and stepped forward, placing a hand on Karnik's shoulder. Turning to see who was interrupting him, Karnik was ready to fight, but all the fight left him when he saw Sawyer standing there. "I'll take it, my friend," Sawyer said in a calm voice. Karnik nodded to him as he stepped aside. After looking back once more to Kate, Sawyer stepped up to speak and focused directly on the cameraman. "We have fought long and hard to be here today, and we will fight hard tomorrow. We, the men and women of the United Constitutional Militia, will never stop living up to the oath we have taken." Sawyer spoke with the presence of the great leader he had become. "We ask that all those who have taken the same oath to defend the Constitution of these United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, stand with us as we do so. To those who haven't taken such an oath, I ask that you decide how important your country is to you and what you will do when they come for you or your family." Sawyer showed no fear as he spoke, only the calm of a caring leader. "There is nothing we, as Americans, cannot accomplish as long as we sta—" Kate felt a chilling dampness touch her skin, accompanied by the harrowing sound of 2 rifle shots, one nearby and one far off. As she instinctively brought her hands up, trying to comprehend what had just occurred, Sawyer crumpled, collapsing behind the podium where he had been standing tall just moments before. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. The wetness she felt was blood. His blood. A guttural scream tore from her throat as she rushed to his side, pressing her hands against the bleeding wounds on his chest and back, trying to stem the tide of dark, crimson blood. But Sawyer ever gently reached up, his fingers brushing her tear-streaked cheek, trailing a comforting path through her hair. Their eyes met, a silent communion of love and fear, as the world around them seemed to fade away. With tears racing from her eyes over her cheeks and dripping onto his face, Kate said, "I love you too, Commander." Tears blurred Kate's vision, but even so she could discern the faintest of smiles curving Sawyer's lips. His fingers, once so full of life and strength, now gently stilled in her hair as the spark in his eyes began to dim. The world seemed to pause, leaving them in a moment of tender stillness, a final affectionate connection as the life faded from him. Continue the saga with Volume 2, Death That Tyranny Brings.